Okay, so today is going to be something a little bit different. I've been asked this a couple times to go over all of the implants that work best for each mech and weapon. We're going to start with just the mechs, and we're going to start with just the attackers in this video. And y'all can let me know if you want some more of these regarding the other mechs and regarding the weapons as well. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Paragon, first off, doesn't have implants. There's cooldown and duration, though. In terms of which one works better, I would definitely go with cooldown. The cooldown is 9 seconds, which is kind of long, and the duration is generally, it's good enough. The speed increase is not so big. Typically, what happens is you have two numbers here. This same goes for Eclipse as well, Eclipse and Shadow. You can reduce the larger one by 30%, or you can increase the smaller one by 30%. You can cut more time from the 9 seconds than you can add to the 6 seconds. So at 30%, you get roughly 2 extra seconds, whereas you could cut this down by roughly 3. So it is just generally more beneficial to work with the larger number when it comes to cooldown and duration. Puma, cooldown and duration are the same, so it doesn't really matter. Its ability implants are not really worth investing in. If you have them, then that's good scrap, I guess. I would say since it has a durability, then it's going to potentially go down sooner. You definitely don't want duration, because that means if it goes down early, then it's going to be even longer before it comes back. So I would suggest the cooldown implant. Stalker, cooldown 9, duration 9, so neither one's objectively better. It depends on what weapon you have, is the thing. What you want to do for something like Stalker is you want to be able to keep the cycle time of your ability similar to that of your weapons, while keeping the duration in line with your firing time. So just as an example, let's say you're using Helix Rack, right? It's not going to do you much good to have duration, because you fire your Helix Rack in one salvo. 9 seconds is plenty enough time. It's probably more time than you need. So what you want to do is get the cooldown as short as possible, so that when you reload, you have your ability again, and you can rinse and repeat, do the same thing all over again. Alternatively, if you have something like minigun or something, anything with a long sustained fire, which Stalker's not that good for, but you might do it. But anything with that fires for a long time, then you put duration on, and then you leave the cooldown as it is. Now, the best implant for Stalker overall is the Predator Drive damage. The mech bonus damage is 50% normally, but you can get that to 80%, which is massive. There is also the damage vulnerability. This means that you'll take 25% more damage. So there's an implant to reduce that, but I don't think it's really worth investing in, because it doesn't do very much, to be honest. You could max out the implant, and you would still take extra damage. Since you're a Stalker, you're kind of weak, it's not really beneficial to work with that. It would be a better idea to just boost your damage so that you can get more kills, so that you can heal yourself. There is yet another implant for Stalker that allows you to heal more every time you get a kill. I'm pretty sure the heal implant boosts it by another 10%, so it basically doubles your healing. So from 10 to 20. It's a good implant, for sure, but if you only have one slot, I would say go for damage. If you have 2 slots, then you could go for damage and heal. However, I would prioritize the cycle time to match the weapons first, like I was mentioning with the Helix Rack and stuff like that. Guardian, system crash range is 30 meters. There's an implant that boosts it by another 15 meters, which is the rarest, most sought after implant in the entire game. Very few people have it. I don't have it, and I've opened a lot of implant crates. It is not available in the shop. It is only available through crates. So if you have it, then that is fantastic, and you should definitely keep it. The width is not useful, really. There are very few situations where you would want to use to where it would actually, save you. So the width I wouldn't worry about. I would go with cooldown. Duration does not work on Guardian. If you have ability duration on Guardian, it's not going to do anything, because all it does is disable weapons and put abilities on cooldown. So it forces enemies to reload, and it forces enemy abilities to cooldown. And that is entirely dependent on the weapon and the mech cooldown and reload times, the enemies. So the duration won't do anything. Panther. There are several of them. One of the more common implants that I see, which is really weird, is the Panther Stasis implant that increases it by, I don't know, it's like another 2-3 seconds or something like that. Don't do that. Don't do that. It is more beneficial to have a rare ability cooldown than the epic stasis time implant, because the stasis time doesn't really do anything. If there is an enemy that is coming through your barrier and you haven't killed them in 4 seconds, you are dead. There's no amount of extra stasis time that they could be in that would benefit you at that point. So don't worry about this implant at all. There's a stasis barrier height implant, which is also, in my opinion, not worth investing in. It is a very niche thing. It only really helps in very, very specific scenarios, so I don't consider it worth using. The primary ones are cooldown and duration. Like I said with Stalker, this is the sort of thing where you don't want to be firing at all unless you have your ability ready. So what you want to do is arrange these in such a way, either prioritize the cooldown or the duration depending on the weapon that you have. If you have something like EM rifle, then I would go with cooldown. So you can get a shot off, reload, get another shot off. Now, if you find yourself with just not enough time to get a third shot off, then you can go ahead and put a duration implant on. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say matching the ability with the weapon. You have to know what your weapon cycle time is, you have to know what the reload time is, and if you find yourself wanting the cooldown to be a little bit shorter, or wanting the duration to be a little bit longer, then those are the implants that you should be doing for that. None of the Panther-specific implants are really worth investing in. Seeker has several mech-specific ones. It has a mech-specific cooldown, which is the same as a regular cooldown, so that's not worth talking about. It has a shield durability one, which is not worth using, by the way. This is about as strong as a Juggernaut shield, so it's incredibly weak. Increasing it does not make it strong, it just makes it moderately less weak, right? This is half the strength of a Bastion shield, and a Bastion shield still goes down fairly quickly. So definitely not worth using that. There is a implant to increase the warp range, which is, in my opinion, the best one. There's also the warp bonus damage. You can get that from 30% to 60%. It adds another 30% onto that, which is great. But the thing is, like, with a Seeker, you are very brittle. So what you have to do is you have to kind of stay on the back lines, and then teleport in, kill one guy, and then teleport back without, standing the risk of someone coming up and killing you. So you want to stay as far back as possible. This, along with the fact that just on most maps, in most modes, 100 meters will not be enough. It does not get you to safety. You cannot be in safety and then get to someone on the enemy team that is on like a back line with only 100 meters. You need a bit more than that. Even 10 meters can help a lot. I use the rare range implant for Seeker, and it actually helps quite a bit. It is very interesting. It's just the way that maps are kind of structured to a point where like 100 meters is just not far enough, but a little bit more can do really well. The bonus damage, like I said, is great, but you know, with 30%, you're probably going to kill whatever you're teleporting to. If you teleport to multiple enemies, then you're probably dead no matter what your damage is. So you kind of just have to use it wisely. Although I would say that the bonus damage is a better investment than the cooldown, because the cooldown is only 8 seconds. It's very short, and most weapons you'll be fine. You could reload in 8 seconds, and even if your weapon reloads in less than that, you know, you're typically chilling, waiting for an extra couple of seconds. Plus, just because it's a seeker, it takes a little bit to choose your target. You got to make sure that you're choosing the right target. You got to make sure that you're being careful. You got to make sure that they don't have anyone behind them that's going to absolutely murk you as soon as you teleport. So 8 seconds is more than adequate. I would focus specifically on the range, and secondarily, if you have another implant slot, the bonus damage. Redux is OP. No, Redux is really bad. If you're using it, though, and you want to get some benefit from its mech-specific implants, then you do have a few options, the radius being the most useful. Now, Redux is one of the very few mechs where the radius does not give it an extra 50%. I think it's only like 23%. So I'm pretty sure you get up to like 38 meters maximum or something like that, which is not very far. But since it is Redux, it is very slow. It is very fragile. So what you want to do is increase the distance from the enemy as much as possible. And the radius implant really helps with that. So that is nice. The ability damage is not super high, and it does it slowly. So typically I would say more damage is not really going to solve much of a problem. The cooldown is longer than the duration, so just statistically the cooldown is going to be more beneficial to reduce than increasing the duration would. Plus, I am rather certain duration only increases the stasis time. The same goes for Tengu, by the way. The duration doesn't actually increase the stealth time. There's a specific stealth implant for them. So Gatecrasher has 5 implants. Cooldown, duration, damage. Those are the 3 just generic ones, as well as the 2 specific ones, Ion Beam Length and Mech Blast Radius. I don't think either of the mech-specific ones are worth investing in. The radius can be kind of nice, but it relies on you sticking it to an enemy. And at that point, it also relies on enemies being close to each other, which is typically not super useful. The Ion Beam Length relies on enemies being further away from walls, and also relies on you being able to accurately punch someone through a wall. So cooldown, duration, and damage. Now, even though it does have a duration, and there's even a duration implant, I wouldn't consider the duration implant to be very worth using, because if you stick it to an enemy, it just explodes, right? And you're not getting use of any of the duration. The duration only is useful if you hit a wall and then it punches through it. It does not show the specific tick damage of the beam, which is interesting, but I'm fairly certain that if the longer that it's out, the more damage an enemy would take. But that, that requires an enemy being in the beam for those extra seconds, which is not very practical. So the duration, I would consider not a good choice. For the same reason, the sticking it to an enemy and it just immediately going off, it's more or less a one and done type of thing. And even after it goes off and its duration is there, your cooldown is already going. So you immediately, as soon as you press the ability, there is the cooldown. You don't have to wait for the duration to end. And so for that reason, Gatecrasher specifically is not the type of mech that you need to worry about matching the cycle time of your weapon and your ability quite so much. So it is more or less, in my opinion, a matter of preference, whether or not you go for ability cooldown or ability damage. I do generally prefer cooldown on most things, just because if you end up swapping your pilot to a different mech, then you know that it at least gets some usefulness. Regardless of what mech it is, it'll have a slightly shorter cooldown. Not every mech has ability damage, so yeah, there is that. Onyx has 4 implants: ability cooldown, ability range, ability damage, and the blast radius. The range is, in my opinion, not the best, and part of that is due to the projectile speed. The more range that you have, the projectile speed's not going to get any faster, so you're more likely to miss at that point. Plus, just generally, I don't think I've ever really had to use the quad rocket at more than 100 meters on very many occasions. So I would say that the range is probably not great, although you could go for a range and damage combo if you were running something like Railgun, where, the point is to stay as far away as possible, right? The most useful implant for Onyx, for sure, is the Radius. I do not have the legendary one, but I use the epic one, and it is very, very useful. The immediate AoE damage of like nearly 70,000, at max anyway, with a radius that large, is very strong. So I would recommend the Radius as the primary implant to go for. And then after that, honestly, cooldown over damage. It is a better idea to focus on the damage from your weapons than damage from your ability. Scorpius has 3. Only one of them are mech-specific, the range. Technically, I think it has a mech-specific damage one, but it's the same as the regular damage one, so it doesn't matter. So cooldown, range, and damage. The range is something I would consider going for if you're using like a Helix Rack build and you have the range implant on the Helix Rack. But otherwise, I would say go specifically for cooldown, because you can get the cooldown really short. And the reason I say cooldown over like damage, right, is because typically the way that I use Scorpius in general is the weapons. It has 32 energy, right? That's a lot of firepower. The weapons deal most of the damage, as always. Almost never is it worth increasing your ability damage unless that ability is increasing your weapon damage, right? And that is just the general case, because your weapons are pulling most of the weight, your weapons are doing most of the damage. Typically, it's not worth increasing the DPS of something that only does a little bit every, 5-10 seconds. So there's that, but also, you can do a lot of damage with your weapons. And if an enemy happens to be low, instead of wasting ammo on the enemy, you can hit them with the ability, especially if they are trying to hide. This works particularly well with, Railgun, by the way. This is my favorite heavy sniper mech. More so than, Gatecrasher or Panther or anything like that. Alright, so that is going to be it from me. Let me know what you think about this kind of video. Let me know if you want me to make more of them. This is also going to be, if you watched this far, the monthly giveaway video. So make sure to leave your ID in the comments to be entered into the giveaway. I do not need your in-game name, and I don't need any kind of keyword. Please don't add a hashtag, because YouTube ends up flagging your comment, and I have to manually go approve it. So it's just easier if you don't do that. I've had people say that their comments don't show up if they copy-paste their giveaway comments from video to video. Probably YouTube thinks that it's spam. So if you have a typical generic comment that you put on every giveaway video and you just copy-paste it, don't do that. Probably YouTube is removing it as spam. If you're still having issues, which sometimes you do, it's a large number. Sometimes YouTube thinks it's a phone number or a social security number or something like that. So sometimes it'll take it down and it won't even notify me, right? So if you're noticing that your comment isn't showing up, please do join my Discord. There is a place in there for your IDs for the giveaway. It's already up and running, so you can enter the giveaway there. As always, the giveaway will end on the 19th of March, so yeah, there you have plenty of time. And yeah, I think that is about it. Appreciate y'all for watching. Take care.